Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, how is everything today? I hope that everything is going well for you. Well, on today's occasion, we are different from the previous videos. So on today's occasion, we are going to talk about autistic students, or we can say ASD. So for you parents or maybe teacher who is teaching the autistic students, or maybe you are as the autistic students can take these advantages from this reason or from this topic. So everyone, actually my research, there are three discussion. The first one is to describe how the high functioning autistic students learn about writing, especially in English, because writing is kind of complicated and difficult skills. And the second one is to know the influencing factors that high functioning autistic how they succeed in writing the text, especially in inclusive classes. And the third one is to know or to dig up the learning strategies used by high functioning students in writing in English, of course. So let us go to the first discussion about background why I choose this topic. So everyone, the term of autism itself is widely known as a spectrum disorder. Now the term is known as the autism spectrum disorder, or ASD, or it is recognizable as the autism spectrum. So this ASD is a set of neurodevelopmental disorder that can be recognized by the characteristic. Yeah, surely the students or children with autism, they will show some characteristic like weaknesses in understanding and using the social skills, and then they have limited communication with the surrounding environment, and also they usually have a limited interest or inappropriate behavior. Yeah, this definition is coming from APA, American Psychiatric Association. Meanwhile, from the another expert like Garside et al., they said that autism is a lifelong developmental disability that occurs in a person, so that it makes it difficult for him or her to understand what he sees or hears or feels around or surrounding him. So it eventually triggers more severe problems related to the social life, relationship, communication skills, and behavior. Meanwhile, according to Livers, autism disorder affect individuals who tend to have a limited social interaction, and then disruption in the form of poor communication and repetitive stereotypical interests and activities before the age of 36 months. Meanwhile, according to William and Wright, autism is a developmental disorder that usually becomes appear when a child is the first 3 years of their life. So the symptoms of the autism vary greatly among the individual, which generally include like repeated use of object, or they only interest in one object and then they use again and again, and then they also get like an inability to clearly communicate with the another individuals, and then they have a resistance to routine changes around it, which makes it very difficult to understand. And another characteristic is they have got difficulties with the social interaction, with the surrounding environment. So everyone, based on this definition described just now, um, autism, yeah, is this long-term developmental ability. Um, it is kinds of a long-term developmental disability that cause people to have difficulty understanding what they are witnessing, hearing, and feeling, yeah, in their surrounding. So these abilities cause complex, yeah, problem in how to interact in a social life, establish the healthy communication, and behave. So everyone, now we go to the autistic students criteria. So in the previous talk, we have conveyed, yeah, several disorder actually. Yeah. So there are some disorder in individuals with autism have been briefly explained just now. Yeah, at this point, yeah, from the expert side, described that general characteristics possessed by people with autism, which are also supported by another expert. Yeah. So the first is communication characteristics. So according to the Carroll, all autistic individuals have difficulty using language and communication skill. Yeah, even though in practice there are differences, yeah, among the individuals. So these difficulties covers relating to the non-verbal communication, which includes inappropriate facial expression, and then the use of unusual movement, and then lack of eye contact, and lack of the focus attention. And then another one is echolalia, or either direct repetition or delayed speech of others. And another one is pragmatic difficulties, including problem in initiating the communication, and then inability to maintain the conversation in one topic. And sometimes it's kind of inappropriate interruption while they are talking about one topic. So everyone, according to another expert, felt this happened because the individual with this high functioning um, autism, they are lack of a theory of mind. Yeah, namely the ability to see the world from the perspective of them. Yeah, yeah. Meanwhile, yeah, another expert says that, or they argue that some students with autism tend to have more capable abilities in the field of memory and the visual spatial assignment, and they usually have it in another area. They are very competent, yeah, in a visual spatial tasks such as integrating the puzzles, and then performing well with the spatial, perceptual, and matching tasks. So students with autism may have a difficulty understanding the information, both oral and written. They have difficulty following the instruction, or maybe understanding what they are reading. Yeah. However, some higher functioning individuals, maybe they have relatively able to identify word, and then apply the phonetic skills, and know the meaning of words. So everyone, based on the general characteristic of the autism describes just now, it stands for the reason that the autism is a complex neurological disorder that affects this ability in social relationship, and then communications and behaviors. So the performance differs, yeah, between the individuals related to the level of intellectual disability ranging from mild to severe. So this rank is often referred to the high functioning autism to low functioning autism. In high functioning autism, yeah, their inability to conduct the social relationships and then communication with other individuals and aspect of the behavior are relatively lower compared to another individual with lower functioning. And then let us see, yeah, the level of high functioning or the level of autistic student itself. So according to the expert like Messi Fellow, yeah, if associated with different levels of intelligence, autism varies, yeah, depending of the severe. For example, here there is a high functioning autistics. It is kinds of disorder that is mild, yeah, mild autism with average to above average intelligence level, which is affected with a fewer disturbance in all area of the function when compared with the another two levels. Meanwhile, from the another expert, they said that the level of the disturbance in the children with ASD varies, yeah, greatly, and the characteristic of disability can appear in the various of the combination with the severe autism, sometimes referred to as a classical autism. So everyone diagnostic of the statistical manual of the mental disorder in America, they actually differ, yeah, the types of autism based on the characteristics. So here are this type like classic autism, or we can say lower functioning autism. Actually, this kind of autism spectrum disorder actually contains specific criteria, yeah, in three areas of the impairments like social interaction and then verbal and non-verbal communication and unusual behavior and interest. Meanwhile, for high functioning autistic students, or we can say HFA, autism spectrum disorder with the similar characteristic, yeah. But in this level, yeah, the autism maybe display the average to above average cognitive abilities and normal language abilities. Yeah, so these less impaired children may demonstrate kinds of social mannerism, yeah, long-winded and then pedantic, and then maybe you can pay attention to the communication style, and then rare or unique spatial interests. For example, they are interested in deep fried cooker, and then trains, and then vacuum cleaners, and then tractors, engines. So such children at the less severe end of the spectrum are commonly referred to as high the functioning autism. Yeah, well, everyone, related to the language skill itself. Yeah, the language skill can be well developed, but there might be a problem with turn taking in a conversation. Yeah, also people with high functioning autism um, often have pedantic speech using awkward phrases and big words. Yeah, so dealing with their interests and then sometimes it is harder to identify than the rapidity and self-stimulatory behaviors often observed is more impaired people with autism. Narrow interests may include preoccupation with the top or facts such as numerical combination, birthday, and then train schedule, a time of history, and then cash register, or maybe dinosaurs. So, all in all, everyone, that autism spectrum disorder contains specific criteria in each of three areas of impairments. Yeah, they are social interactions, verbal, non-verbal communication, and unusual behavior and interests. So, in people with high functioning, they tend to have above average intelligence, especially associated with less impairment in all areas of functioning. Note that impairment here doesn't mean that the skill or behavior is totally absent, but that is limited or unusual in some way compared to the typical or common people. Now, we go to the next discussion, yeah, about autistic students learning. Yeah, according to the regulation of Ministry of Education and Culture in Indonesia, autistic people actually they have deficiency in communication, behavior, and interaction. So the school needs to provide what the autistic students need in developing their skills. Yes, studies recently showed that there might be deficit in complex abilities. Yeah, studies showed that there might be deficit in many cognitive functions. Yet, not all are affected. In addition, they may be deficit in kinds of complex abilities, yet the simple abilities in the same area may be intact. Yeah, as stated before, um, that cognitive features associated with the autism, like a deficit in paying attention, the relevant use and information, and in attending to multiple cues. And the second one is receptive and expressive language impairment, particularly the use of the language to express the abstract concept. Sometimes they get difficulty to that one, and then they also deficit in concept of formation and abstract reasoning. Yeah. And another impairment is in a social cognition, including the deficit in the capacity to share attention, emotion with others, and to understand the feelings of the others, unable to plan, organize, or until solving the problems. So everyone, uh, some students, if you pay attention in your surrounding, maybe they demonstrate strength in certain aspect of speech and language, such as sound production, like a phonology, and then vocabulary, and simple grammatical structures, like a syntax. Yet have significant difficulty carrying on like conversation and using speech for social and interactive purposes like a pragmatics. Yeah. So autistic students may perform numerical computation relatively easily, but may be unable to solve the mathematical problems. Well, everyone, HFA or high functioning autistic, according to another expert like Mesibo et al. Actually, they relatively easily to learn about facts, yeah, vocabulary, computer skills, and another concrete knowledge. So the nature of the connection among the feelings, interpersonal events, non-verbal communication, and social expectation are generally much more difficult to understand. So generally or basically, individuals with high functioning need more like a repetition and then explicit information about the social and emotional topics. And then the second one, people with high functioning are divinely as visual learners, yeah. So they try to understand the language correctly. The implication of this receptive communication problem is that the visual information should be used to implement the substitute for verbal information. Yeah, for most people, actually, for high functioning children or people, written information is usually the most practical form of visual information. However, in a certain situation, and for young children or maybe some individuals for other form of visual information such as photographs, pictures, drawing, or another symbol may be usable. So from the explanation just now, actually basic students with autism tend to have abilities in the areas of the memories and the visual spatial arts. Yeah, they possibly are visual learners which perform well, such as in putting puzzle, spatial, perceptual, and mechanics. They generally able to recall simple information, but maybe have a difficulty in recalling more complex information. So everyone, students with autism, they may have difficulties in comprehending the oral and written information. For example, like some autistic individuals may be relatively capable of identifying words, applying phonetical skills, and knowing word meanings. So what about their school? Yeah, in Indonesia itself, there is the inclusive education. So nowadays, yeah, many schools are now involving their students in inclusion program that will educate all the students. So the term of inclusive school itself, it is often used to describe, yeah, the changes that are occurring within the school and the school district to better coordinate and unify the educational program and services, as well as to transform school into a place where all students, including those with disabilities like high functioning autistic students, belong and can learn at the higher level. Yeah, as stated by Lauren, yeah, she defines that inclusive school is kinds of a diverse problem-solving organization with a common mission that emphasizing learning for all students. So it employs and support teachers and other staff who are committed to work together for all students is shared. Yeah. So the inclusive school acknowledges that such as commitment that requires administrative leadership, ongoing educational assistance, and long-term professional development within the inclusive school. There is a shared responsible for any problems or any success that we have for students in our school. So stand back and in 1966, he defines that the inclusive school is one of that educates all of students in mainstream. Yeah? Educating all students means that every student is in a regular education and regular classes. So that inclusion refers to the situation in which the student with these abilities are educated with their non-disabled peers, with special education support and services being provided as necessary. So this idea is also in line with another expert like Freiberg that argue that inclusion is based on the premise that all children, regardless of their abilities, have the right to participate fully in the most natural things with their communication. Furthermore, the essential assurance of feeling that everyone belongs, strengthened the value of the inclusive, like what said stated. So it stands for a reason that everyone must welcome the student with these abilities to join the regular classes together with their peers. Indonesia is one of the countries implementing the inclusion into its educational system, has its own definition about this issue, which is most different from the definition we have explained. So in Peraturan Menteri Pendidikan Nasional, or you can say a Regulation Ministry of National Education, inclusive education is kind of an implementation of education which gives an opportunity for all students, including those who are disabled. I repeat, including those who are disabled and those who are gifted and talented to have regular class together with their peers. So in this case, they have the same rights, to participate in plays, activities, and also to compete with others to reach the best achievement. Okay, so based on the definition, just now we have explained. Inclusive education is kind of an educational service, admitting disabled, gifted, and talented students into curriculum via social interaction and school concept, educating and involving them in general education classes near their home with their age peers to participate fully in the most natural setting with their communities, with special education support and services being provided as necessaries. So students here, with these abilities, have referred to specific learning disabilities, speech or language impairment, mental retardation, serious emotional disturbances, and multiple disabilities, hearing impairments, orthopedic impairment, blindness, visual impairment, other health impairment, autism, and traumatic brain injury. Therefore, students with autism need to be in the position, or they need school which provide the services which enable them to develop the skills in the social interaction, behavior, and good communication. So here, based on the observation, actually there are some schools in which they have autism students. So I am interested about their learning strategies and the factors influencing them good in writing, and then how to know about their strategies in learning English as the second language. Okay, we go to the next discussion really about the objectives of inclusive schools. Inclusive education actually it gives a chance for all children to learn together in regular class without tension to the difficulties of differences they might have. Inclusion contributes the advantages not only for disabled students but also for those without disabilities to have the humanistic opportunity to acquire an understanding of the social value related to learning differences among people. Well, everyone, according to Brown, yeah, the objective of inclusive education itself it is to engage students with disabilities, which is general education can afford them, and then likes appropriate support, adaptation, services which are needed. Therefore, it stands on the belief that the children with special needs can get benefits from the inclusion. So, in Indonesia itself, the goals of the inclusive education are to first give a great chance to all students, including those with special needs, to get a proper educational fitting their necessities. The second one is to accelerate the obligatory basic education program. And the third one is to increase the quality of the basic secondary education. And the last is for creating an educational system which appreciates the heterogeneity, avoid discrimination, and provide kinds of welcome circumstance in teaching and learning, yeah, in the classroom. So in general, it can be summed up that the inclusive environment or inclusive school is supposed to reduce autistic characteristics such as communication problems like impaired social interaction and unusual behavior because the characteristic of the autistic students. Meanwhile, inclusive schools also purpose to give opportunity and engage students with disabilities in general education. It can afford appropriate support, adaptation, and services which are needed. So everyone, what are the good criteria for inclusive education or inclusive school? Yeah, actually there are some criteria we can take from the experts said that the school or the inclusive education must involve understanding and acknowledging the inclusion as the continuing and evolving process. And the second one is creating learning environment that respond to the needs of all learners to achieve the greatest impact of their social, emotional, physical, and cognitive developments. And the third is undertaking a broad, relevant, appropriate, and stimulating curriculum that can be adapted to meet the needs of diverse learners, and strengthening sustaining the participation of pupils and teachers and parents and community members in the work of the school. And the next is providing educational setting that focus on identifying reducing barriers to learning participation and structuring cultures, maybe like policies and practices in the school to respond the diversity of pupils within the locally, and then the identifying and providing the necessary support for teachers and then staffs and the pupils, and it can be engaging like inappropriate training and provisional development for all staff, and then ensuring the availability of fully transparent and accessible information on inclusive policies and practices with the schools for pupils, parents, support staff, and other persons who are involved in the education of the pupils. So here, Winter and Orwell, yeah, in 2010, yeah, they also state their opinion that the keys of the success with the inclusive education, actually the school must include or must cover the leadership. Yeah, it means that the research consistently demonstrates that without effective leadership for inclusive education, success will be difficult, yeah, to achieve. Yeah, the leader must be knowledgeable and then supporters of inclusion who provide caring support for their staffs. Yeah, yeah. What about the teachers? Yeah, the second factor is the teachers. Yeah, teachers must accept ownership of the process and commitment to all children in a class. In addition, teachers must be highly skilled practitioners. Yeah, they have to be trained. There should be knowledgeable about the inclusions, about inclusive schools, inclusive education. Yeah. And then the third one is very important, namely about teachers' belief and attitude. Yeah. So positive attitude must be evident if the inclusive education is to be successful. And the teacher must believe that all students are capable of learning and contributing to the classroom community in positive ways. Teacher training, a high degree of teachers, evasive or inclusive practice must be in evidence. So, in order to accomplish, yeah, this purpose, actually there are some steps, yeah, or there are some factors that must be fulfilled. Yeah, well, the next factor is the teacher training. Yeah. A high degree of teacher efficacy for the inclusive practice must be in the evidence. Yeah. So the headmaster of the school should provide kinds of training or maybe seminar or workshop to train their teachers what they need, yeah, what they should know, what sources should be needed, and yeah, this can include like planning time, training, personal resources, material resources, class size, and consideration of the severity of the disability. And then the next, the most important is teaching assistants. So trained and knowledgeable teaching assistants are very helpful, yeah, in facilitating facilitating the inclusion as they work under the direction of the classroom teacher. And the next factor is the family involvement. Yeah. The involvement of the family is an important, and the essential elements in the success of inclusive. Well, the next is we talk about the curriculum. Uh, yeah, so curriculum is an educational plan that spells out which goals and objectives should be achieved, which topics should be covered, and which method are to be used for learning, teaching, and evaluation. Yeah. So a simpler explanation dealing with the curriculum is also written by Nunanya. So according to him, curriculum is concerned with the planning, implementation, evaluation, management, administration, and educational program. So it should be different, from the typical students, or it should be made especially for inclusive school or inclusive education. Yeah, the curriculum must be developed for inclusive school, in which they are actually have the purpose like helping the students to advance their potential and cope with the learning problems faced during in the classroom, and then helping the teachers and the parents to foster the educational program for students with special needs at school, outside school, or homes, and then being guidelines for school committees and societies in developing, evaluating, and reaching inclusive education. Yeah, you also need to learn about the syllabus and then lesson plans. Yeah, you can learn it, by yourself. Yeah, so we go to the core of this discussion really about learning strategies. So as we know that every student has their own strategies in learning. Yeah, yeah, based on the research that students who know their learning type or learning strategies, it will make them easy. It will make them easier to learn, and the result also satisfying. Yeah. So let us see the definition of the learning strategies itself. So what is learning strategies? So the word strategy is really coming from the ancient Greek word strategia, which means step or action taken for the purpose of the winning a war. So warlike meaning of the strategia has fortunately fallen away, but the control and the goal, directedness remain in the modern version of the word. So according to another expert, that learning strategies are the ways in which learners attempt to work out of the meanings and use of words, grammaticals, rules, and other aspects of the language they are learning. Meanwhile, based on the Oxford, he defines that the learning strategies is the operation employed by the learners to aid the acquisition, storage, retrieval, and the use of the information. So this definition is further expanded to include specific action taken by the learner to make learning easier, faster, more enjoyable, more self-directed, more effective, and more transferable in new situations. So everyone, Um, Here, learning strategies itself have been classified by many linguistics like Cohen, and then another expert. Yeah. Well, we are going to focus on the type of the what is it, learning strategies you should know in what's in getting the information, how students learn. Yeah, so based on the Oxford, actually, they are or learning strategies are divided into two. The first one is direct, and the second one is indirect strategies. Yeah, so the strategies used directly in dealing with a new language are called direct strategies. So the three groups that belongs to direct strategies are memory, such as grouping, imagery, rhyming, and then reviewing, and then also there is a cognitive like reasoning, and then analyzing, summarizing. So all reflective of deep processing, as well as the general practicing and conversation, such as guessing meaning from the context in reading and listening, and using synonyms and gestures to convey meaning when the precise expression is not known. Meanwhile, indirect strategies are used for general management of learning. The three groups belonging to this category are metacognitive, such as paying attention, and then consistently searching for practice opportunities, planning for language tasks, self-evaluating one's progress, and monitoring errors. And then affective, such as anxiety reduction, self-encouragement, and self-reward. And next is social strategies, such as asking questions, cooperating with native speakers of the language, and becoming culturally aware. Well, now we go to learning strategies in writing skills. So, learning strategies can be applied in four language skills actually, like speaking, listening, writing, and reading. But our focus today is in learning strategies for writing. Yeah, students in inclusive school. Yeah, we only concern on learning strategies for writing. So all description on learning strategies for writing are described like grouping. Yeah. So it is kinds of activities which involve classifying what is heard and read into the meaningful groups. Those, yeah, reducing what is it? Thus reducing the members of unrelated elements. It's sometimes leveling the group as well. And the second one is associating or elaborating. So this is kind of activity which involves the associating new language information, yeah, with their familiar concept already in their memory naturally. So these associations are likely to strengthen the comprehension as well as making the material easier to remember. So they try to reconnect their information they have got with the new information. And then the next is using imagery. So it is a good way to remember what has been heard or heard. Or new language is to create the mental image of it. And then the next is semantic mapping. So they usually use these strategies which involve in arranging concepts concept of relationship or paper to create the semantic map. And in a diagram in which the key concepts, stated words are highlighted and are linked with the relative concept via rows or lines. And the next is using keyword. Sometimes high functioning students autism, they use these kinds of strategies using keyword. This strategy combines sounds and image, so that learners can more easily remember what they hear and read in the new language. And then the next strategy is representing sounds in memory. Yeah, this strategy helps learners to remember what they heard by making auditory rather than visual representation of sounds. So this involves linking the new word with the familiar word or sound. Using physical response or sensation, and then these strategies may involve physical acting out new expressions that has been heard. Yeah. Teaching strategy known as the total physical response. Yeah, so another strategy is using mechanical technique in which the student try to remember what has been heard or read, mechanical technique or something helpful. And then the next strategy is getting the idea quickly. It means that it helps the learners. What is it? Help the learners in exactly what they need or what they want to understand, and it allows them to disregard the rest or use it as a background information only. So the techniques constituting this strategy are skimming and scanning. And the last one, strategy proposed by the Oxford is analyzing expression. So it is helpful to break down a new word, phrase, sentence, or even paragraphs into its component parts. So this strategy is known as the analyzing expressions. So everyone, all in all, learning strategies are the steps taken by learners to enhance their own learning strategies are really important for language learning. Yeah, because they are tools used by them for developing communication competence. So by using the appropriate learning strategies may result success in learning. And a specific strategy probably is useful to learner if it fits the particular student's learning style preference. And the students who employs the strategy effectively and links it with another relevant strategies may improve their language learning. Yeah. Learning strategies can be applied for language skills for writing effective, and then learners might know more strategies and are able to choose and apply suitable strategies in a conscious to be successful language learner in the learning language. Yeah, well, everyone, yeah, now we talk about the most complex of skills, namely about writings. So there are many reasons involved in writing process and contribute to make this skills difficult. So according to Tribble, the students' difficulty were planning and selecting the ideas, establishing a point of view, and then focusing on the organization of the ideas and structuring of the text. After that, evaluating and management of linguistic competence. Besides, three heading problems which caused by writing according to Brian. The first one is their psychological problems. Yeah, not only the high functioning autistic students or ASD, but also this problem also faced by the typical students or the common students, that writing is essentially a solitary activity, and the fact that people are required to write on their own draft, yeah, without the possibility of the interaction of the benefits of the feedback, in itself makes the act of the writing difficult. So the researchers have many feedback to let them know how they are doing and whether they should change their approach. So there is no immediate interaction between the producer and receiver. The second one is about linguistic problems. So different from oral communication, the language used in written language is either simplified like list, telegram, note, etc., or more elaborate, more formal. So in a foreign language, this process is also more difficult as there may be interference at a cultural level, not just the linguistic, but also between the mother tongue and the foreign language. And the third one is the cognitive problems. So what is the meaning of cognitive problems? So everyone, writing is a learned through process of instruction. So the written form of the language and the certain structure which are less used in speech should be mastered and learned. The way to organize the ideas is also important for effective communication, which has to be learned in writing. So in autistic students, they have those problems studied in ABA, that the criteria of diagnostic autistic students are delays or abnormal functioning in at least one of the areas, such as the social interaction, language, and then what else? The cognitive area. They have receptive and expressive language involved, particularly the use of the language to express the abstract concept. So those characteristics are difficult for them. In addition, they have deficit in concept formation and abstract reasoning. So in the case of high functioning students, some seem relatively capable of identifying words, applying phonetic skill, and knowing word meaning different from other two levels. They may have difficulties in comprehending oral and written information, such as the following direction and understanding what they even though high-functioning students have stronger abilities in the areas of the rote memory and the visual spatial tasks than that of the areas that help them excel the visual spatial tasks to recall simple information, but they have difficulty in recalling more complex information. So considering the language impairment, high-functioning students' writing performance may be affected. So based on the statement just now, high-functioning autistic students may have unique combination of strength and the weaknesses in academic performance, social interaction, and behaviors. They are more visually oriented. In other hand, they have the deficit in attention and difficulties with memories for complex information. So therefore, considering the problems, writing is a challenging task not only for a common student but also for high-functioning autistic students. Yeah, so everyone, I think that's all. for my explanation about what is it, highly functioning autistic students. If you still have any question, or maybe we need to discuss about what is an autistic student, you can comment in below the videos. Yeah, yeah. Well, everyone, for us as a teacher, teaching the autistic students is not easy. It is kind of challenge that make us what is it, more spiritful, that make us more what is it, want to dig up more, yeah, because they are gift, they are the person that are unique, and we are as a teacher really hope that what is it, our effort, yeah, will not be useless. Yeah, I hope that it will be useful for them. So for you, who has been given by this gift children, you must be thankful to the God. Yeah, well, I think that's all, everyone. Yeah, our topic about autistic students. Actually, the discussion or talk about the autistic students very long. Maybe next time in the next video we are going to continue, yeah, about the autistic students, because I haven't told you about what's it, the result of the students strategies, this learning strategies used by the autistic students, and then factors influencing them in what is it, reaching, or in why did they succeed in writing, and then the factors um, that makes them what is it, difficult in learning writing. So I think that's all. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and see you next time.